Welcome to Black Love and Cinema with Manny and Jess, where we break down love and relationships through the lens of our favorite movies. This is Manny. We are going to be talking about Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, the 2022 movie that showcases one of Marvel's greatest superheroes, the Black Panther, but also is a tribute to the late Chadwick Boseman. This movie is a very heavy film, and because of the gravity of it, this may not necessarily go into the depths of love in relationships such as couples, even though there are some aspects of this movie that do touch on a loss when it comes to loved ones in a romantic situation. But a lot of this deals with just loss in general. First, I'd like to say that this is going to be a little bit of a vulnerable episode for me because of what this movie means to me. That is mainly why I am doing this one on my own. Wakanda Forever came out in November of 2022. Just to kind of give some context of where everyone was at and where the world was at. This was about a year and a half after COVID. Everyone had been locked down. Many people were dealing with the loss of family during that time frame. COVID, when they shut it down in April, around August, that's when Chadwick Boseman passed. And so they were dealing with that. You had George Floyd going on in that time frame. But I think the world was dealing with a lot of trauma, of loss. In 2022, towards the end of the year, I think this was a time that most people needed to kind of mourn and grieve in their own way through movies. And there's a few movies out there that you can watch that may do that, but this one was done in ceremonious fashion. And for me, it signifies something even deeper because this movie happened to be the last film that my mother and I had watched, just me and her as, mom and son. The movie came out. I was excited for it. I'm a huge comic book fan. For those who know me, this was something that I really wanted to see. My mom was very supportive in everything that I was doing at the time. I had started a comic book business that was for representation of everyone. It was Vanda Comics, which is no longer around, but I still do sell comics from time to time, just via eBay and such. For the most part, my business was fully thriving. She had been diagnosed with cancer, and she was battling that. She was going through chemo, and I had a chance to steal her away for a moment to watch this movie with her. It was done in such a glorious fashion that I think it kind of inspired her for the going home ceremony that she had, because she suggested that everyone be in African regalia, and her herself was clothed in that on the day we put her to rest. There's a lot of things that I'm going to touch on, and I know I'm probably sounding a little vulnerable, but that's because I really do care and love my mom a lot, and I want to make sure that I'm getting my message across clear. So this episode is dedicated to Mary Coleman. The movie itself was an excellent film. It showcased the Wakandans basically coming to terms with now being a part of the open world and having the world know that they exist. In the first film, no one knew where they were. They didn't know. They stayed hidden from some modern civilization, even though they were advanced. And so now it comes to grip with becoming a part of the global knowledge, everyone wanting to know, everyone wanting their resources. And you could see that they were willing to protect it at all costs. But the opening scene is probably one of the most gut-wrenching scenes, for one, in Marvel, and for two, just in Black films in general, as far as a memoriam, because beginning scene portrays Shuri, played by Letitia Wright, basically trying to figure out a cure for her sick brother, who of course we know was Black Panther, played by Chadwick Boseman. He wasn't in the picture, or he wasn't in the film itself, but it basically showcases that he came down with some kind of sickness. She's trying to figure out this cure. She's using all the technology she has. And while she's going through this scientific research and trying to discover and trying to recreate the herb to possibly heal him, because we know in the last movie the herb was destroyed, so they were trying to figure out, pick up pieces, the remnants. She loses her brother, and so now this movie becomes about mourning. The funeral scene was spectacularly done. Ryan Coogler showcased African funerals and the ceremonious ways that African people lay rest to those that we have lost. In itself, it was definitely a memoriam for them. Being able to see this with my mom before she had passed was something in itself, because it was, I guess, a way for her to reflect with me about things that she may want or have wanted to do for her funeral service or anything like that. About 4 or 5 months after that is when we actually sat down with her and actually went through funeral arrangements, my sisters and myself. She wanted to make sure everything was going to be taken care of, so we did that. There is scenes afterwards where everyone's just kind of having conversations about how they felt losing the king. The kingdom of Wakanda is in disarray. They have different people from all over the world trying to get at their resources. They're trying to maintain their status as a superpower in the world. And now we have a new possible enemy that steps in with Namor, who has an entire kingdom himself that is under the sea and uses vibranium in a completely different fashion. So now you have two factions with vibranium battling to see who's going to be the superpower to control vibranium one way or the other. One wants to remain in secrecy, which is Namor and his people. And then we've got the Wakandans who also want to keep the resources to themselves, but they don't want to become a threat to the world. As far as comic book accuracy, depicts a part of the comic book lore that's a little different than what is in the actual comic books, but the rendition of it is done beautifully to be able to portray the new Black Panther being Shuri in a way that respects the loss of Chadwick Boseman as well. Which brings us to the next part of this, is dealing with loss. In this movie, there were multiple losses as far as losing the Black Panther themselves, as well as some other losses within. I'm pretty sure most people have seen this movie already, but I'm still not going to spoil it. So there are some other deaths that happened in this movie, and they're very significant to the plot, and they are very significant to telling the story of what it means to lose someone that's very close to you, like family. Some things that I can pull from this is going to see this movie with my mom. For one, it was something that me and her have shared together, and I will always have that memory with her. By the time I went and saw the movie with her, I'd already seen the movie probably like 4 times. And I had actually literally had seen the movie again right before she showed up. So I went to the movie theater early, caught the first showing, and then she came, and then I watched it this second. It may have been the 4th or 5th time at that point with her, just so I could get a chance to watch it with her and basically enjoy that movie with her. Her opinion of it was beautifully done. The costumes were amazing. She loved that instead of everyone wearing black, they were white. She loved the action, of course. My mom was an avid movie watcher. As far as our family, we all watch movies. Getting out and seeing the action, she's rooting for the good guys, of course. And she was excited to get out and just spend time with me. I'm glad I got to spend that time with her. I'm glad we got to see the movie. Some ways that I really enjoyed this movie was, first off, like I said, I'm a comic book fan, and my mom was a big supporter of me doing that. The reason why I became such a big comic book fan was because of my mom. As a kid, I didn't like to read, as most boys maybe growing up don't. I wanted to play. I wanted to get into stuff. And so my mom, as a way to get me to read, would buy me comic books. Whenever we go to the grocery store or if we're at Walmart or wherever, she would say, hey, go find a comic book and I'll get it for you. That started my love for comic books. And I would read the comic books so I could figure out what was going to happen next. The excitement of it, of course, being a kid, that just gave me a love for the comics, and it also gave me a love for reading as well. So my mom being a teacher, I guess she figured out the hack for getting kids to read was to get comic books. When she was diagnosed with cancer, it made me reflect on what I wanted to do in my life as far as legacy, how I want to be remembered, what my legacy is to me, but also what my mom gave to me that I could use to influence others. At the time she was diagnosed, the first Black Panther had already been out, and I was ecstatic about it because I got to take my kids to see this movie about a black superhero, and they had representation. Back when I was a kid, the only black superheroes that were mainstream, that were not comical, was basically Blade. And so I had to wait till I was a little older to watch those. But this one was geared towards kids of all ages, and it had representation not only of America, but of Africa. So it was definitely a great thing to be able to behold. So in doing that, I thought to myself, I would love to be able to give the opportunity to others to be able to find the comic books that represent them, whether it is the Black community, the Hispanic community, the Asian community. And so I had different genres, different heritages, different lifestyles, everything from the LGBTQ plus community to more focused for Native Americans, and also even for those who have ADA, any type of other handicaps or anything like that. I try to find comics that showcase those things. I would put those on my website and sell those. I did carry a couple mainstream things here and there for sustainability, but a lot of it was things that were for people that needed different representation. So that was where the idea for Vanta Comics came from. During her later parts of fighting cancer, as she got down to her final days, we had ended up taking her out to a cancer center out in Houston. As we were there, we would spend days with her, my sister and I, just basically taking turns day and night, being at the hospital, making sure she was good to go, being there in every moment up until her passing. And one piece of knowledge that she imparted on me before, I asked her, I was like, hey, what do you think? How are you feeling? Or do you think we're going to beat this round? And she told me, either way I win. That was her quote. And I still carry that quote with me to this day. Either way I win, meaning she is either going to beat cancer and leave the hospital healed, or she's going to transition and be with God. It was profound, simple, but it's something that has stuck with me to this day, because as I go through different things, as I deal with different problems, it makes me focus and think on the fact that regardless of what happens, bad or good, there's going to be an outcome, and I have to look at it in the best way possible. Either way I win is something that I will always remember from her, and it's something that I use in just about everyday life. As far as the review for this film, it's a great film for those who may be dealing with grief, mourning. If you just need an excuse to cry, it's a good film for that as well. But for me, it holds a special memory because it was the film that my mom and I got to see together. Just me and her. We saw some other movies after that together, but it was a lot of family involved and stuff like that. Still a great time spent with her, but this one was one that it was just me and her. So this is Black Love in Cinema. Love doesn't always come in the romantic way, but we do have love for family. We have love for our loved ones, our friends. And part of that love is dealing with the loss as well. So if you're dealing with loss, just know that there is always going to be some kind of pain you're going to feel. There's always going to be some kind of remembrance that you're going to have that's going to bring you joy. But as long as you can remember them and remember the love that they had for you and the love you had for them, you can still make it. Either way, you win. All right. This is Manny signing off.